Yo, listen, there are great sitcom moments. There are legendary sitcom moments. And then there are those incredibly rare television moments that become bigger than the show itself. Moments that get replayed for decades. Moments that enter pop culture history. Moments that people remember even if they have never watched the entire series. And I am telling you right now, the Sammy Davis episode of All in the Family produced one of those moments. In fact, here is my opening hot take. I believe the famous Sammy Davis kiss may be the single most iconic moment in sitcom history. Not one of the most iconic. The most iconic. And the more you understand the cultural context behind it, the stronger that argument becomes. Welcome back, everybody. If you love classic television, legendary sitcoms, and deep dives into the moments that changed television history forever, you are absolutely in the right place. Today we are talking about Sammy's Visit, the unforgettable 1972nd episode of All in the Family, and why one shocking, hilarious, brilliant moment became one of the defining images of American television. And trust me, this story is even bigger than most people realize. Now here is the thing. For younger viewers watching today, it can be difficult to fully understand how enormous Sammy Davis was during the early 1970s. We are not talking about a regular celebrity guest appearance. We are talking about one of the biggest entertainers in America. A member of the legendary Rat Pack. A singer. A dancer. A comedian. An actor. A cultural icon. A man whose fame crossed generations and demographics. When Sammy Davis appeared on television, people paid attention. And when Norman Lear brought him into the world of Archie Bunker, television history was about to happen. My first hot take is this. The brilliance of the episode begins long before the famous kiss. Seriously. Most people remember the ending. But the entire setup is masterful. The episode centers on Archie accidentally offending Sammy Davis, while Sammy is in the neighborhood for a television appearance. Right away, viewers understand the potential disaster. Because if there was one thing audiences knew about Archie Bunker, it was that he frequently said exactly the wrong thing at exactly the wrong time. The tension becomes almost unbearable. You know something memorable is coming. You just do not know exactly what. And that anticipation is a huge part of what makes the episode work. Now let us talk about Archie. Because honestly, nobody could have pulled off this storyline except Archie Bunker. This is what people do not realize. The entire episode depends on viewers understanding Archie's contradictions. Archie carried racial prejudices. The show never hid that. But Archie was also deeply human, deeply insecure, deeply confused about a changing world, and often completely unprepared for situations that challenged his assumptions. That combination created comedy gold, understood exactly how to play it. Every nervous glance, every awkward reaction, every desperate attempt to avoid embarrassment. It is perfection. Now here comes another hot take. His performance in this episode may be one of the greatest sitcom performances ever filmed. Because the comedy is not coming from punchlines. It is coming from discomfort. And discomfort is incredibly difficult to perform effectively. Makes it look effortless. Now let us talk about Sammy Davis himself. Because honestly, he deserves enormous credit. Guest stars sometimes enter sitcoms and simply play themselves. Sammy did something smarter. Much smarter. He understood the joke. He understood the social commentary. He understood Archie. Most importantly, he understood how to use his own celebrity as part of the comedy. His confidence throughout the episode is remarkable. He controls every scene he enters. Not by overpowering Archie, by outclassing him. There is a difference. Sammy remains charming, relaxed, intelligent, funny, and completely aware of what is happening. That dynamic creates some of the funniest interactions in television history. My second hot take is that Sammy Davis delivered one of the greatest guest performances ever seen on a sitcom. Not because he was famous, because he understood exactly how to play the material. And he nailed every second of it. Now let us talk about the famous kiss. Because eventually we have to get there. The moment, or the image, the scene everybody remembers. The scene that became television history. For anyone unfamiliar with it, Sammy Davis thanks Archie for helping recover a briefcase, and then unexpectedly plants a kiss on Archie's cheek while photographers capture the moment. Simple, brilliant, unforgettable, and absolutely devastating in the best possible way. This is what people do not realize. The genius of the kiss is not the kiss itself. It is Archie's reaction. That frozen expression. That stunned look. That moment where his entire worldview appears to short-circuit. It is one of the greatest reaction shots in television history. Maybe the greatest. And because plays it perfectly, the moment becomes immortal. Now here comes another hot take. The reaction shot is actually more important than the kiss. Think about that. The kiss lasts a second. Archie's expression lasts forever. That expression became the image. That expression became the legend. That expression became sitcom history. Now let us talk about why the moment mattered culturally. Because this is where the story becomes truly fascinating. Remember, this episode aired in 1972. America was still wrestling with enormous racial tensions. Civil rights battles remained fresh in public memory. Questions about race dominated political and cultural conversations. And here comes All in the Family using comedy to address those issues in front of millions of viewers. Norman Lear understood something important. Sometimes comedy can reach people that lectures cannot. The audience laughs. Then they think. Then they reflect. That was Lear's genius. This episode demonstrates it perfectly. My third hot take is that the Sammy Davis episode accomplished more through comedy than many serious television dramas accomplished through direct messaging. Because humor lowers defenses. And once defenses come down, people become more willing to engage with difficult subjects. That is exactly what happened here. Now let us talk about Norman Lear. Because honestly, episodes like this explain why Lear changed television forever. Before All in the Family, most sitcoms avoided controversial topics. Lear ran toward them. Race, politics, religion, gender, class. Nothing was off limits, but he understood that controversy alone is not enough. You need great characters, great performances, great writings. The Sammy Davis episode has all three. That combination transformed a clever idea into a historic achievement. Now here comes another hot take. If this exact script had appeared on another sitcom, it would not have become legendary. It needed Archie. It needed Sammy. It needed Norman Lear. Everything had to align perfectly. And somehow it did. Now let us compare this moment to other famous sitcom moments. The finale of MASH. Lucy in the Chocolate Factory. Jumping the Shark. The Soup Nazi on. The and Rachel breakup on Friends. All iconic. All memorable. All deserving of recognition. But very few sitcom moments combine comedy, social commentary, historical significance, celebrity power, and unforgettable imagery the way the Sammy Davis kiss does. That is why it remains unique. That is why it remains powerful. And that is why people still talk about it decades later. My fourth hot take is that no sitcom image is more instantly recognizable than Sammy Davis kissing Archie Bunker. The photograph alone tells an entire story. You do not even need dialogue. That is how powerful the image became. Now let us talk about legacy. Because truly great television moments survive beyond their original era. Viewers who were not alive in 1972 still recognize this scene. Television historians still discuss it. Comedy writers still study it. Fans still share it. That longevity is not accidental. It happens because the moment works on multiple levels simultaneously. It is funny. It is shocking. It is clever. It is culturally important. And it remains entertaining. That combination is extraordinarily rare. Now here comes my biggest hot take of the entire video. I believe the Sammy Davis episode is the most iconic sitcom moment ever because it perfectly captures everything that made All in the Family revolutionary. It is hilarious. It is uncomfortable. It is socially relevant. It is brilliantly acted. It is culturally significant. And it produces an image so unforgettable that more than 50 years later people still know exactly what you are talking about the moment you mention it. That is not just a great sitcom scene. That is television history. Pure television history. So what do you think? Is the Sammy Davis kiss the most iconic moment in sitcom history? Or is there another legendary television moment that deserves the crown? Tell me in the comments because I genuinely want to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the greatest television moments ever created, make sure you drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss future videos. We have plenty more discussions coming about Archie Bunker, Sammy Davis, Norman Lear, Bunker, Gloria Bunker, Michael, classic television history, and the unforgettable moments that changed television forever. Now for real, thousands of sitcom episodes have aired throughout television history. Millions of jokes have been told. Countless memorable scenes have been created. Yet somehow one unexpected kiss, one perfect reaction shot, and one brilliantly constructed episode continue to stand above almost all of them. That is why the Sammy Davis episode remains legendary. And that is why it may very well be the most iconic sitcom moment ever.